So the next part of the puzzle is to start to look at the disposal methodology, okay, which is how we're going to, well, really what happens at the end, okay, so that's going to be part 5. And what we're talking about with disposal is we need to start having the look at, well, what's the end process for our product or service? So how do they get rid of the remaining product? Okay, so when I'm starting to think about a product, does the consumer consume the whole thing, or how do they get rid of it? And as I say, if we're going to go back to a pizza, pretty easy. Dispose of a pizza, into the rubbish. How do I dispose of a car? All right, so how do I dispose of a computer? How do I dispose of something that might have a residual product at the end of its life, and how are they going to get rid of that? What's the considerations there? Does it need to be recycled? Is it able to be recycled? Is it going to be on-sold to another person? How does it retain residual value? Whatever's left, whatever it happens to be, okay? These are thoughts we need to have in our head. If they're buying a car from us, they'll obtain the car, they'll use it for a couple of years, then they'll probably on-sell it to someone else. How's that process going to work? Do we need to be involved in that? Okay? On the other hand, a computer printer, they've obtained it, they've used most of the toner, but then toner's a toxic thing that goes in a landfill. Do we have some sort of obligation for dealing with that? What happens to the remainder? We need to think about, well, how much of that product are they throwing away after use? Okay, do they only use a small portion of it, then a heap of it gets thrown in the bin? Do we need to make smaller portions? Okay, it starts to drive a lot of our thoughts. Okay, they've obtained it, they've used it, now what happens? How do they get rid of it? How much are they going to get rid of? How much are they going to throw away? We also need to think about their process. If they are on selling it, is it a case of they're going to go to sell it, through a second-hand store on the market? Are they going to just give it to a friend or family? Is it like a mobile phone that might pass from one sibling to the next, move through the family? Everyone's ended up with that phone at some point, whatever it happens to be. Is it becoming a hand-me-down? And also think about recycling. Is it a product they're going to recycle, and put out for reuse, or how's this going to operate? So all these things start to affect us as an organisation as well. If we're saying that, let's just say we're talking about a car, we know they obtain the car, they use it for a period of time, and then we have a second-hand car dealership or we allow for trade-ins. So we say to them, well, look, when you're done with the product, bring it back to us and we'll put some of the money towards a trade-in for a new model. Okay, that's going to become an organisational influence. It's going to start to get into their headspace, and they start to think about, well, I can recycle it, I might be able to reuse it, I might get some money back, and we're starting to shape, once again, the consumer behaviour. Right, so all these things start to really tie together. And that last bit is just as important as all the other parts. Okay, what happens at the end? All right, as I say, is it recycled? Is it reused? Is it passed on as a hand-me-down? Does it end up in the bin? If everything is up in the bin, does that come back on us? Are we going to end up on some sort of media channel with a heap of our product ends up in landfill and is this massive waste and actually creating a great amount of environmental damage? Okay, because if we start to get stuff like that, that's going to start coming back up here and biting us. Okay, once upon a time it was those styrofoam containers for McDonald's. Everyone rolled into McDonald's, they ate their hamburger, the Big Mac in the old styrofoam container, then they threw it in the trash, and 1,000 years from now, those containers, millions of them, are still going to be there, okay, because they never broke down. McDonald's got a lot of negative flack about that, and they changed to a paper packaging that's going to break down and be a bit more environmentally friendly. All right, plastic shopping bags. They come to the shop, they buy their goods and services, they go home with a plastic shopping bag, everything's fantastic, they take the plastic bag, they throw it out, it ends up in the water, okay? It ends up, stuck in the mouth of some sea turtle or something, and once again, you're putting yourself in for a lot of hurt. We've got to make sure that the disposal process, or what happens to the remainder of our product, is well thought through. Okay, they have different needs. Another one, lithium batteries, car batteries. There's all these things out there that we really need to start to consider. Well, what happens when they get rid of it? Okay, what's that going to mean for us? All right, that's really important stuff, and we need to make sure that we're considering it, pretty early. All right, so what is the consumer decision model then? Okay, well, we can break it down to all these things roll into a fairly straightforward process. Right, and it follows a bit of a logical progression when we start to look at all those. And the first one is we start to look at, well, their need recognition. So how do they recognise they need something? Okay, starts to come in up here. Their pre-purchase evaluation. So they've identified they need something. Now they're thinking about, well, how am I going to choose that? What do I want? I'm hungry, I want dinner, or I want to buy a new car, I want transport, or I need a new computer, or whatever's happened. They start thinking about their pre-purchase evaluation at that point. So how do I evaluate it? So what's my criteria? And then I go off and I make the purchase. Okay, so what's my criteria? What do I want? That's where this is coming in. I go on make my purchase. Yep, I want it now. I chose it based on a whole range of different factors that we've talked about in that section. They're now in the process of consuming. They're now using the product. How much are they using it? When are they using it? Where are they using it? How are they using it? Who's actually using it? How often, how frequent, whatever. And then we get to the point in the cycle where we get to the post-consumption or the post-use. And what we're talking about there is that's sort of this section here, between the 4 and the 5, this last little section where they're thinking, well, I bought it, I used it, am I satisfied? Did it do what I need? I ate it, I'm still hungry. I drank it, I'm still thirsty. I bought it, it didn't do what I needed. I bought the car, it's not fast enough, it's too slow, it used too much petrol, what happened? Okay, this is where they're going to start to make another little evaluation, and then they're going to divest themselves of it. Okay, so we get to the last part where they go, okay, done with that now I need to move it on. Okay, so that's the model in a cycle. We've thought about what I need, I've thought about how I'm going to shape myself to go out and get that information and how I'm going to make the purchase decision. I've then moved myself down through going through this part. Once the decision's been made, yes, I'm going to buy that product or service. Yes, I'm going to begin using it. Yeah, did it work for me? Did it do what it said it was going to do? Did it promise what was on the box? And now I'm going to move out of the disposal cycle, which strangely enough will, if I really think about this being a bit of a circle, it's going to take me back eventually to here. Might be time for my next one. Okay, that was yesterday's computer. What about tomorrow's? Okay, and the cycle sort of begins again, but now the cycle is very heavily influenced by what happened in the past. Last time I bought your product, did it do what I wanted? If I do that, that's your organizational influence coming in. If I bought your product last time and I'm unsatisfied, I'm probably not going to go back and buy it again. I know I have brands I would not buy at all because I've had past experience with them, they weren't that great. I've had brands that I know that every time I buy their stuff, it just works. And I will seek them out, and that's absolutely influencing my purchase and decision about whether I'm going to obtain it or not, and then how I'm going to use it, etc. Because I've used it in the past to do that before and it worked. So I'll do that again and I'll be satisfied with that product or service. Okay, so that's really how the cycle is going to go on a very quick level. All right, cool. So think about that. Walk through the journey of where the customer is going to go. Have a think about what was going on for them. Have a think about how you want to shape their information sets. Have a think about how you can make all that easier and get them to come back and become a repeat customer for you, satisfied with your goods and services, because you guys have apparently thought of everything, and that's what you want to get ahead of. Be the people thinking of everything. Don't leave the customer stranded. All right, look after them. Cool.